This morning I have been given an interesting task, and after last evening, and you can see that there are moments and different people that you speak with that you have to alter the way that you choose to approach them. In this particular venue, I stand in a place where I need to proceed, to me, not only one of the greatest communicators that are alive in the world today, but also someone that you respect. And anyone that you respect, you always must walk timidly before their arrival to the platform. Last night, I decided to change what I was going to talk to you about today. And so at 3:30 this morning, I was then attempting to alter the direction of our time together. So let's see how it came out. I want to talk to you this morning on the topic of the 7 leaders or 7 reasons why leaders fail. 77 years ago in his book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talked about the attributes of a successful leader. These attributes are little different then than they are today. Even when all the technology and with all the things that we do new, and the newly discovered brain and emotional sciences, principles are more timeless than ever. Here are these attributes. Number 1, knowledge about their work. 2, self-control, and they remain calm under pressure. That no matter how much pressure that a leader goes through, that this pressure that they have will not overcome them. They're able to remain calm under pressure. And if you don't have my notes, you can download them this morning once again, like Justin had mentioned. Number 3, a leader has a sense of justice. They have a sense of fairness. And leaders have a respect for others. They respect other individuals. No matter what challenges that they face with them, respect is a line that is never crossed. Number 4, leaders stand by their decisions. They make a decision and they hold to their decisions. There's something that my dad said in years gone by. He said that when you make a decision, or leaders, failures and successes, there are those who will make decisions quickly and change them rarely. And there are those that will make them slowly and change them often. You must beware of being able to stand by your decisions. Number 5 is that they have organization and planning skills. A person who is a leader needs to possess organizational and planning skills as well. Number 6, a leader will always have strong work ethics. They are always an example. They always have people follow them in their working. As I was going through just the thoughts of this particular weekend, I began to see and understand that people don't bear the same work ethic. They wonder why it is that they can't get where they want to go, why it is that it doesn't seem as though that they can achieve the things that they desire to achieve. And truthfully, it's almost very simple, if not touching the borders of simplistic. They just don't bear the work ethic that they need in order to get where they want to go. Number 7 is their neatness and their hygiene. One of the worst things that we're facing right now in the professional world, as well as in the private world or in the religious quadrant of our lives, is we're facing a lack of hygiene, and we're also facing sloppiness. You can wear jeans, and those jeans can be $700. But unless what you do is that you choose to put yourself into them, to put yourself into the clothes that you wear and carry yourself well, you cannot succeed. I remember when my father and I were in Sofia together. I was to meet he and Robina one afternoon in the lobby of our hotel. And when we finally came together, he said, "Oh, I knew it was you." I said, "You knew it was me?" He said, "Yes, I saw you walking on the street." So I couldn't see that it was you. He said, "But when I saw the way that you carried yourself, I knew that it was you that was walking down the street." Because you don't put something on in front of people. It's the way that you live. It's the way you carry yourself. It's what you do. Because remember this, and never forget it, as a leader and a successful business person, is that a man is what he does. A man is not what he instructs. You will always discover the truth of a person's life. As I was preparing for this, I got the opportunity to read one of the greatest lectures on leadership of all time. It was a military lecture, and what it did was it talked about how that ultimately the people who follow you will find out about what is inside you. A man cannot escape what lives within. And then number 8 of leadership was they have empathy. Well, what really is empathy? Because you have sympathy, empathy, and apathy, and they all mean different things. But the word empathy is interesting because it means the ability to share the feelings of others, to be able to share their feelings. Number 9, which I believe should be number 1, and we'll talk about that in a moment, is to be detail-oriented, to have an orientation of being detailed. And I'll tell you what that means. Number 10 is a person must have accountability in deed, not just in word. Now here it was that 77 years ago a man wrote these words. But even with all of those wonderful things, I feel that what now has occurred, and Kenneth Copeland and I spoke about this last night, is somewhat at length. But I feel that what has happened is that we have spent so much time telling people what it means to be a success, we have never told them the things that they must avoid in order to get there. Many people believe that you can continue to do right things and then right things will happen. But that's not necessarily true. You can do right things all day long. You can keep pouring gold in your pocket, but if there's a hole in the bottom, it doesn't really matter because it's all going to go out on the street and someone else ultimately will pick it up. For me, in my life, there are moments when I have to know what not to do, not just what to do. So what are the reasons why? I want to tell you about 7 reasons why leaders, business owners, fail. Number 1 is this: they lack detail orientation. What does it mean to have detail orientation? They're not familiar with what is going on. A true leader, a real leader, a business owner should be able to go into any area of the business which they own and to be able to at least compete, if not exceed, every person that they have working in every one of those areas. If in fact that you are going to be a person that is respected, a person that is going to be followed, a person that's actually going to be able to stay out in front, then you have to know what other people know. I've discovered that what happens is that a lot of times people, very well-meaning, but sometimes they don't really know how to tell you the truth. And if you don't know the details of what's going on, then you'll never really be able to know what's happening. They lack detail orientation. They lack the ability to be able to know what is happening. No genuine leader, friends, is ever too busy to do anything that may be required of him in his capacity. When a man admits or a woman admits that they are too busy to change their plans or give attention to any emergency, they admit their inability to lead. The successful leader must be the master of all details that are connected with his position. They must master the details. Remember this. We have this saying that says the devil is where? He's in the details. Believe me, he lives there. Actually, he lives everywhere, but he seems to have his most success in details because there are small things that people overlook. But remember this. Small hinges swing huge doors. Small hinges will always swing huge doors. Number two, the second reason why that leaders fail is their unwillingness to work alongside those below them. What happens is, many times, is that people begin to believe that they've become somebody. And because they believe they've become somebody, what happens is that they're the individual, they're the suit that walks down the corridors. They're the person that will walk through the factory or the manufacturing plant. And everybody knows exactly who they are, but if truth be told, they're unwilling to be able to do the work that the entry-level employee is willing to do. And in so doing that, we need to remember, we need to know how to do that as well as the person that's there. Back when I used to have a job a long, long time ago in a far, far away place, one of the things that I had chosen to do was I had chosen to be what was called a swing driver. A swing driver was someone that was actually trusted to be able to go into other areas of responsibility and other people's areas of responsibility, and you didn't need a babysitter. And so as I would go from place to place, geography to geography, it would take me one day to actually equal the person that was there all the time, but by the second day, I was able to exceed their performance. And so management and ownership was always looking to me to find out whether or not that someone was really doing their job. You see, I must always be willing to work alongside those who are even at entry-level positions. Now, that's not where I need to live, because what happens is that if you spend so much time with the entry-level positions, you'll never really be able to become the leader that you desire to be. But there are many people, friends, that are just unwilling to work at those areas of life. You see, when a person comes to the place of being unwilling to do that, failure will begin to set in. Because great leaders are always willing to perform any sort of labor which they would ask another to perform. If I ever ask you to do anything, if you ever ask an employee, if you ever ask a coworker or a fellow laborer in what you do to do something, remember that you need to be willing to do it just as well. As a leader, we must always be willing to help out. You see, no business owner or leader can be truly successful if they ask more of others than they're willing to ask of themselves. A person is not a leader if you view them consistently downloading responsibilities to junior staff. If a person is consistently downloading things and putting things off to other people, because there are people, and delegation is a great thing, and delegation must be done, of course. But if you find a person delegating things that they must do themselves, you've just discovered that that person is not the leader. The leader is probably the person that they delegated it to. Number three, what is the third thing that causes leaders to fail? Is wanting to be rewarded for what they know instead of what they accomplish. We have just been around this in America over the last 20 years. There's been a huge outbreak of people wanting to be rewarded for what they know They're not wanting to be rewarded for what they do. What people don't understand in business is this, is that you cannot be rewarded for what you know until what you do creates money. If what you know doesn't create a green bottom line, then you can't be rewarded. Because all we're doing is giving useless tidbits of information to people that do actually nothing with it. So how important is it for us to be able to take the knowledge and create productivity out of the knowledge that we have? Why leaders fail is because there are many people that know many things. There are individuals in here that you have absolutely no education and you're tremendously successful. And then there are those in this room that are tremendously educated but very much unsuccessful. The difference is, once again, is in what a person does. It's not in what a person knows. Number 4, the fourth reason why that leaders fail is because of intemperance. I searched for a word to not use this one, but came up shy. And the reason why I came up shy is because there's no other word that takes the place of intemperance. Take a look and see what it is. Intemperance just means the lack of moderation or restraint in any kind of pleasure. Their inability to be able to exercise restraint. It's something that you see, and when you see it, you want it. And when you want it, you take it. But when you take it, you don't think about the consequences that you'll create in at least 200 people's lives directly for every decision that you make. Statistically, friends, please understand that every decision you make will touch at least 223 people's lives directly. Not even indirectly, but directly touching people's lives. Intemperance is one of the things, it's one of the pleasures, it's something that attacks us after we have achieved a bit. And when we've achieved a little bit, we think, hey, let's slow down, okay? Let's smell the roses. Let's just have a cup of latte. Let's just kind of think that, let's sit back for a while. We really need to chill. Because at the moment that you think you really need to chill is the moment that you are at the most dangerous place in your life. That is the reason why that I mentioned last night. It is important to do what you love, but it is much more important to love what you do. Because love can be chosen. You can choose. Because a successful leader lives his life by duty, not by desire. I live by duty. I do what I must. Somebody said, "What do you want to do?" And I come up with an absolute blank. I have no environment to even think of that, about what it is that I want to do, because I'm doing what I must. I'm doing, because remember, friends, the answers to your life and the fulfillment of your life is in meeting the needs of others, not in trying to be able to meet your own. When you help other individuals fulfill their dreams, when you help other people to pay their bills, when you help others to take care of their family, to pay their taxes, to do things with their lives financially because you've been able to get them to focus, when you're able to do that, you then can be happy over your productivity. But if your productivity is only based upon you being able to do more, have more, and be more, and look like you're more in front of everyone else, you'll be sadly disappointed in a number of years. At first it works because we have to be able to get ourselves out from underneath the pressures that we have when we first begin to make some money. Pressures like, my bills aren't paid. Pressures like, I don't have a very nice car. I don't have a very nice house. My wardrobe is really kind of, it lacks attention at best. And because of that, what we need to do is that we need to bring ourselves up to the place to where we have achieved. understand this about excellence, because every one of us wants excellence in our business. Excellence, friends, a man or a woman of excellence will always bring their environment up to the level at which they live. We bring our environments up to the level that we live. Why? Because the worst thing for any leader to really focus on or have to see all the time is that it's very difficult for me to look at need and walk away and say, I have no responsibility to it. So every leader must raise their environment up to a place where they feel good about giving people another opportunity. Because the greatest person that you will ever meet in your entire life, friends, is a person who gives you an opportunity. It is those individuals that you embrace and those also that you never let go of. But in the arena of intemperance, intemperance is the lack of moderation or restraints in any kinds of pleasures, no matter how that you want to define those pleasures, whether they be in food. There are people who overeat. One of the greatest Christian sins is eating. They just eat. They don't go around, they don't, get sloppy drunk and fall down. All of us realize after a couple times of sloppy drunk and falling down, that person is probably going to have a software upgrade. We realize that. But how many people do we ever really talk to about how much they eat? It's just that you're sitting at the table and you're looking at them and you're thinking, what's up with that? Because they're hungry. Hungry. But we don't talk to people about that. But that's intemperance. It doesn't have to do with just, drinking and drugs and sex. It doesn't really have to do with all of that. Intemperance is a place where what happens is that an individual lives life in any area with no borders. That's intemperance. The Bible calls it in the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians chapter 5, verse 23, it calls it self-control. Because the greatest enemy that you will ever face in your entire life is not difficult business times. The greatest enemy you'll ever face, you knew them many, many years ago. They actually live inside your bathroom. They don't live wherever you live. They only live in your bathroom. The moment that you look in the mirror is the moment that you discover the person that has to be controlled. And then, number 5, the 5th reason why leaders fail is authoritarian leadership. Let me explain this to you because it's really important to know. After having looked at this and studied this and gone around this whole idea, I discovered that one thing became common, and that is when what you do is that you force people to do something that they are not prepared for. Ultimately, you can't do or keep doing all these things, and you will wear out. So authoritarian leadership, let me read to you what I have written about that, because it is so true. Authoritarian leadership are those who lead through fear and intimidation rather than respect. A manager like this has the idea, or a business owner who says, I'm the leader and you'll do what I say. There are types of people who live this way. There are marriages in this room that live this way. There's an authoritarian type leadership, but genuine leaders lead, friends, by encouraging and not instilling fear in the people that work with them. You see, you have to make a decision. People certainly do, as a business leader, they do work for you. That's really true. But if you really got down to it and were honest with yourself, you would be willing to say that they actually work with you. They work with you in your business. Their happiness, their ability to be able to work without the fear of loss is really important. Certainly, friends, and all of you in here who know my dad, you will remember that it is good at times to be able to instill fear in people. Remember Caiaphas. Even Caiaphas said that about Jesus. He said, isn't it good that one man should die for the people? What happened? Solomon said it. He said that if a crime is not dealt with quickly, then every man will believe. In Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse number 11, he said that every man will believe that it's all right for you to do evil. So there are things that you have to do. Those things instill a respect inside of an individual who doesn't believe that you have become a weak leader. I believe some of the things that are going on in our world today are all a result of weak leadership. When you're a strong leader, people will not step over the boundaries. But being strong means that you can speak softly. Remember this. A man or a woman who has authority never needs to raise their voice. A man or a woman who bears authority only has to watch to see what's in the hearts of others. Because if you try to determine what is in the hearts of others, it is only a matter of time before that person, who now 3 years later and has influenced many more people, will now do the same thing that they had in their heart 3 years ago. It's important for you to understand. Authoritarian leadership is a great way to be able to initially get things done. But in the long run, authoritarian leadership will leave you dry and alone. So you'd want to make sure that you're working with people through their challenges and not just having people work for you in a place where they become expendable consistently. Number 6. Number 6 is this. The fear, another reason why that leaders fail, is the fear of competition that they have from those that are near them. Many times people cannot be free. As a leader, people can't be free in order to be able to grow their business without being afraid of those people that would actually take advantage of them had they not been looking over their shoulder. Be willing to give all information that you have. Now, I didn't say 100%. I didn't say you needed to give them the passwords to your websites. I just said give them all the information. You give them the tools and allow them to work out how those tools need to be handled. But the 6th reason why that people fail is because of the fear of the competition of others. Do you realize that no matter what you're doing here today, whether you own a 7-Eleven or whether you're an independent business owner, no matter what, everything comes down to the fear of competition and the fear of loss. And the moment that you look at that fear of competition, you then, my friends, will be looking over your shoulders. And when you're looking over your shoulder, then what will happen is that you'll end up in an accident with what's in front of you. So make certain that you're never looking over your shoulder. Always be kind. Always be giving, because your life is really determined by your giving. Your life is not determined by your protection. And then lastly, number 7, before I turn this over to my dad. Number 7, because I'm just Peter Daniels' warm-up band. Number 7 is this. People surround themselves with wrong relationships. I could have actually taken one of these things and given you 7 different reasons why that the same reason is true. People surround themselves with the wrong relationships. Interestingly enough, this really is the only place where what I want to do is I want to inject the Bible passage. In Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse number 9, beginning with verse 9, in the New Living Translation, the Bible tells us something interesting. He said, the 2 people can accomplish more than twice as much as one. They get a better return for their labor. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help them. But people who are alone when they fall are in real trouble. And on a cold night, 2 under the same blanket can gain warmth from each other. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not ever going to be broken. You see, many of us call the people who we see every day our friends. The reason why that we call people that we see every day our friends is because, truthfully, we don't have anyone else to call friends, so we call them friends. Are they friends? Not really. They're in the category of what we'll just call, for lack of a better term, they're frenemies. Because we don't have anyone who fits anywhere remotely near the definition of friendship. I just want to give you the requirements for a moment of becoming a true friend. When I came into my relationship with Peter Daniels, this became more important to my life than ever. Many of you have read the book that I had done in this particular case, and I want to just remind you of what it says. The attributes of friendship. Number one, my friends must be committed to long-lasting relationships. They have to be committed to something that is long-term. You cannot build wealth long-term. You cannot build health long-term. If relationships are short, it takes long-term relationships in order to be able to succeed. Number two is that my friends must never stop dreaming. They must continue to dream. They must have a direction that they're going. Because a man who stops dreaming is a man who has death tightening its grip upon him. A man who stops dreaming has death fastening its grip tighter and tighter on their lives. Number three is that my friends must be generous. I was so grateful when Kenneth and Gloria were here last night, and just so gracious and kind about my dad. I was so blessed that they came. But that's a man who is a generous man. Rarely do you meet generous people. You hear people talk about it, and you hear people even kind of speak about it, or even in the religious arena, what people will do is they'll preach about it. But rarely will you ever meet one. People are tremendous receivers, but I'm interested in tremendous sowers, because my friends must be generous. Number four is that my friends must be worthy of my generosity. Do you realize that you could give a 3-year-old a Ferrari, but that Ferrari is probably not going to be very good at the end of the day? You see, my friends have to be worthy of my generosity. I just cannot be generous from me to them. They have to be worthy of the generosity which I show them. Because the future of what I give them is determined by where I give it. Interestingly, Kenneth talked about last night about a story about a man. If you remember the Bentley watch that was wrapped in a car. You remember that one? How that somebody gave him a Bentley, but he was really kind of more interested in the watch, and it just came with a car around it. And that was really good, and that was just, a Bentley GT. And it was very wonderful. But the end of that story is one that he didn't tell. The end of the story was interesting because he and John had felt that what they needed to do was they needed to sell that car. So before selling it, and Kenneth did it when Linda and I gave him a car a number of years ago, that he called and said, "Hey, how would you feel if what I did was I sold this car turned it into something else? I said, sure. I said, whatever you want to do. So that part's okay with me. And so he was saying about this gentleman with the Bentley. He called him on the phone, Ilya, and he said to him, I really feel that it's the right thing to do. He said, what I'm going to do is, he said, I'm going to put it into the television ministry. And Ilya said, oh, please do it. Yeah, that'd be great. Put it out around the world. Let me just get some seed around the world. He said, sure, I'll do that. So he did it. And when he was selling the car, there was a couple people that came to see it. One person just found every problem with it that they could, because that's some people's negotiative skills are really based upon showing what they don't like about what you have. It's good for nothing, cries the buyer, until he goes off and boasts about the great deal that he just got. But I have more honor for the things that you own, and I'm grateful for what you have and that you kept it well. And I would rather let you know that. But interestingly enough, there was a woman who finally came, and what she said, this is the perfect car. I just want to buy this car. Well, don't you want to have this checked out? No. I love this car. This car is everything that I ever wanted. I really want to have this car. And so she bought the car. And when she bought the car, she said, there's something strange about this. Because I have a friend that I think I'm supposed to give this car to. And Kenneth said, well, what's his name? And she said, Ilya. And Ilya got his car back. And he got to sow the seed just as well. You see, your friends must always be worthy of your generosity. They have to be ready for it. There are so many things that you can do for your children, but if they're not ready for it, don't do it. Don't do it. Could you do it? Yes. Do you want to do it? Absolutely. That's the reason why that grandkids are awesome. You can do anything in their lives, and you don't even care what happens. I don't care. Number 5 is that my friends must prize integrity above relationship. That's number 5. My friends must prize character and integrity above relationship. Most often what happens is that once we become friends with people, and we're talking about why leaders fail, and it's because they don't have any friends. They only have friends in name only. They've got phenos, friends in name only. And what happens is that the friends that you have in life are there to protect your character. They are there for a level of accountability that no one else gets in your life. They're the people that you can be vulnerable with because you realize that they're not going to leave you when this whole deal is over. That they're still going to be faithful. They're still going to be loyal. They'll still never turn their back on you. You see, I expect my friends to prize character more than they love me. Not love me more than they will stand for truth. Then lastly, number 6, is that my friends must be willing to protect me from my enemies. One of the most difficult things in life is that as you go on, as you begin to age, as you begin to become someone in your chosen field of endeavor or in business ownership, what occurs is this, is that you get to a place to where you've got to give up the fly swatter. And you have to sit back and see if someone else is willing to close the back door, to make sure there's no holes in the screen, One of the greatest times that anyone can ever have in life is at the moment, friends, when what you'll do is you'll go and see someone and protect your friend from that enemy. Why do leaders fail? Those 7 things that I just told you. Can we go over them again? Number 1. Let's go over them again, if you would. Number 1. They lack detail orientation. Remember this. Every business owner, every leader needs to understand the details of what happens in his area of business. Number 2, they have an unwillingness. This is why leaders fail. They have an unwillingness to work alongside those who are entry-level employees. Number 3 is that people wanting to be rewarded. They fail because they want to be rewarded for what they know instead of what they accomplish. Number 4 is that they fail because of intemperance. They get to a point to where what they do is that they don't embrace the character that got them where they are. They begin to relax, slow down, and truthfully, they lose because of their lack of character. Number 5, authoritarian leadership. Authoritarian leadership, friends, is good in the short term, but it will never be able to have long-lasting results. People will end up hating you once they personally begin to mature. Number 6 is the fear of competition from those that are near them. That fear of competition. They fear the competition from the people that they really brought up. I'll never forget the first time that Linda and I actually went to South Africa to one of the game parks. One of the pastors had taken us to one of the game parks. And the guide had told us that day, he said, well, you know, we're going to go over and we're going to see the lions. But when it was time for us to go, he said, well, we're not going to go over there today. We're just going to go somewhere else. I said, wait. Why aren't we going? He said, because the dominant male lion is now being challenged by 4 of his mature sons. The fear of competition. Remember, you give everyone all of your answers. Never be afraid to give people all your answers. Just don't give them your passwords. Those are passwords that God has to build in their lives. Let them get the passwords. You tell them where the website's at. And then, number 7, why leaders fail is that they surround themselves with wrong relationships. May God bless you, and may you become the leader that God wants you to be. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here again, and thank you again, Robb. We have a very unusual relationship, and it will never happen again, and we enjoy our relationship together. Last night I made some comments about why the Christian church may never reach the business world. I wasn't feeling really all that well, but I want to finish just a little bit of it before I commence to speak to you on entrepreneurship. If we do not reach the business world, we will not have the clout to change legislation and change the way in which we're living. And the morality will continue to slide downward. Euthanasia will become a persuasive option for the sick and the elderly to reduce health costs. Multiple wives will be legally introduced as an option. Some serious crimes will be reduced to a misdemeanor to create jail vacancies. And a type of indentured slavery will be introduced to work off personal debt. Think about that. The curriculum of the Christian schools will be mandated and forced to change. And this is one that really bothers me because it's already happened in one country. your homes will have an additional second or third mortgage to pay a debt to a foreign country. It's already happened in Cyprus. They've taken money out of the banks of the people that have a considerable amount of money in there and just paid off the debt owed to other countries. And Christian outreach will be classed as cohesion and be forbidden. The government will create strict laws against parental influencing their children, and certain biblical truths will be restricted. That's what we can look forward to unless we reach the business world, because that's where the action is, that's where things happen. And I want to talk to you this morning for just a short while on the Christian entrepreneur leading the way. After I've finished, you might like to look in Genesis 18:24-32, where Abraham is giving a what-if explanation and question to God in respect to saving their nation. What if? We have a situation where Abraham is appealing to God in a hypothetical way to preserve the people and the city from disaster. He said, if there were 50 righteous people within the city, would you destroy it? He exhausted all his options. And very often we ask these what-if questions. I want to do something for the entrepreneurs today in a refreshing way. And I mentioned last night that at least 25% of Jesus' disciples were in business. And when times are tough, we often look for a panacea that will wipe the slate clean and allow us to start afresh, uninhibited by the baggage of the past and the challenges of the present. That will allow us to clarity of thought. And you don't have to be old or wise to even a little bit smart to sense something is missing out there in the real world of business and economics, where the cut and thrust of business overwhelms our thoughts, our energy, and our time. And I want to put some propositions to you. Very often, we're faced with some challenges. And I'm slipping through the pages because I've got something I want to share with you. When I look at some of the successful people I've met, they appear to be different, but they're not much different than you. We must never lose sight of the fact that all business includes money and all helps and services are paid for by somebody with money. We know that business opportunities do not come with a value stamped on them. And when the structure is falling apart, you don't have to decorate it with comfortable words and unworkable plans. We also understand that poverty is not a mortgage on the labour of others, and suffering is not a claim check. Success is being criticised today for being a success. And there are those in our community at this time who refuse to pay their share, then it means that someone else is forced to pay them for them. And there's no honour in an arrangement like that. The government of almost all Western democracies are failing. We look at Greece, the centre of democracy, and they're falling apart. I want to try and change something. I'm looking for the right words here because I'm a little bit confused with my mind with this Parkinson's disease, but let's stop and ask a question. What caused some of the events to take place? What about the change makers of history? We have to ask the question, who made it happen? Who were the change masters of history that marched into our books and affected the millions of people even under this very day? And yet we seem to be locked into the present tense of our own circumstances, wondering who we are with unfulfilled dreams of the past. We overlook the fact that nothing is hopeless when the spirit is strong. And in the middle of chaos, it could be that I'm talking to someone here today and you know who you are. There are people here today that have got something inside trying to get out, and you are full of fear instead of full of faith. You know, we've been watching the newspapers recently, and there's something happening over there by the Crimean area. And there was someone called Nightingale, Florence Nightingale, in 1854, that started the nursing profession in an effort to save the sick and wounded soldiers. And she made this comment. She said, "I think one's feelings are wasted on words that ought to be distilled into action which brings results." What happened was this woman became one of the change makers of history. And she said it's action that is a key ingredient. General Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army in 1864, he was penniless, worn out, and when he preached on the street corners, he was pelted with rotten eggs and tomatoes. Till one day, this man took hold of his dream and put it into action. He made a commitment before God when he said, "I'll go for souls and I'll go for the worst." When he died, there were 150,000 people at his funeral. He's now in 103 countries. The father of modern computers, Charles Babbage, an English mathematician, it was he who developed the first mechanical computer in 1834. But nothing happened until he actionized his dream. Sam Walton, who created Walmart as a young man, he worked as a lifeguard and delivered newspapers. He built over 100 stores in China and 8,000 stores throughout the world. Just one man who actionized his dream. But what if you activated your dream? What if we ask these questions? What if I activated my dream? I look at Warren Buffett, who is worth more than $50 billion, but he started selling ice cream and then went on to purchase railroads. Has already pledged 99% of his wealth to charity. We have to ask the question, how did he do it? Well, he put caution on the back burner and went ahead and just activated his dream. What about you? Are you going to still sit around wondering, hoping that something would happen, or you're going to activate your dream? The richest man in the world is Carlos Slim of Mexico, whose financial net worth is over $74 billion. He got started as a 10-year-old boy by selling drinks and snacks. Just one man activated his dream. What if you activated your dream? It was Bill Gates, a university dropout who developed software and now has 55,000 people employed in 85 countries. He became the youngest self-made billionaire in America. He was only 31 years of age when it happened. And everyone said it wouldn't happen again. All the opportunities had gone until Mark Zuckerberg stepped onto the scene. And he became, again, the youngest billionaire in history. Unless you do something different and activate your dream and do your best and beat it, unless you are prepared to stretch a little further, push a little harder, and do not allow yourself to be manipulated by people or events, and while you are sitting there contemplating and waiting for the right timing and the right opportunity, you must not listen to procrastination as it continues to whisper in your ear, wait a little longer, wait a little longer. But what if? What if you activated your dream? No other person can get in your mind and body and act it out for you. The secret of getting things done is getting started, and you sit and wonder while procrastination becomes self-sabotage and suicide on the installment plan. You see, motivation determines your future. The only thing you should put off on tomorrow is procrastination. What are you going to tell your grandchildren? What are you going to leave as a benchmark of a life well lived and well spent? Or are you going to continue in misery and discomfort as you listen to those discouraging words? What if? What if? When you decide to become an entrepreneur, you made a commitment. You said, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes. We're faced now with America owing $92 trillion. Not enough money in the entire world to meet that. Now's the time to activate your dream. You see, we Christian entrepreneurs will always be here to clean up the mess. We're the ones who supply the jobs. We are the ones that put rivets in the dreams and the lives of people of this nation. We can, and I dare say we must, change and be the change masters of history. And if history and economics and business is ever researched and written in America, reflecting the challenges that you have before you today and those still yet to come, if it's truthful, they will say it was the Christian entrepreneurs, not the philosophers, not the daydreamers, not even those with good intentions or even those with deep concerns. The question will be asked, who were they that would not accept defeat? Who were they that pushed against the odds? Who were they when gloom and doom surrounded them and they kept on going, sometimes falling down but never staying down? Who were they that clawed their way back inch by inch even when it didn't make any sense anymore? Who were they that created wealth and stability when most believed there was none left to be had? Who were they that rebuilt the businesses from the leftovers and the rubble of the past? Who were those individuals who bounced back from calamity and produced confidence, enterprise and fortunes? I'll tell you who they are. They're the type of people that are here at this meeting. Christian entrepreneurs, hard-working people, creative people, determined people, optimistic people, ambitious people. We're a special breed of people. You are the people that put action into the dreams. But what if you listen to those words, what if? What if everything goes wrong? What if you're not able to do it? What if your timing's wrong? You know, as I look back on over a half a century of business, those words have destroyed some of the greatest minds and plans in history. And here we are again, faced with new challenges. And I want to stir up the strong and meaningful pledge you uttered so long ago when you had no knowledge of the future, when you committed your life to Christ, and with that firm, audible resolve, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes. I've heard many of you say that. I'll do whatever it takes. You knew too well that the cost would be high. It would call upon all your known and undeveloped abilities. You're going to be stretched, but you're not going to be broken, because you're a Christian entrepreneur, and we all must strive and push ourselves and need to become the change masters of history. Things have to change. Now, I can't do it for you, but you already know what needs to be done. I'm not privy to the challenges or understand the complications you have before you. But I've lived a long life and I've had many ups and downs. You know, sometimes you're restricted by the time that you're living in. But it comes back later and it becomes your friend and it liberates you. And the world is full of unexplained mysteries and happy chance, but if you put action into your efforts as a Christian entrepreneur, then those usual and unusual opportunities, even the chance meetings that I've joined people here over these last 24 hours, and the awful setbacks, yes, even the adventure that you have can change your life. So here we are back again to that question, what if? What if you removed yourself right now from the barren desert of hopelessness and you outperformed the doubters? What if you pushed every opportunity? What if you expanded your mind? What if you worked a lot smarter? What if you became innovative and created options? What if you had a promise of a greater hope and a better tomorrow? What if you stopped consulting with the cowards of human escape who are hiding in the shadows? What if you stopped complaining, justifying, comparing, and when the whole world says give up, what if hope answers back with a strong command and voice and shouts a word. Try a little harder. You may not be where you want to be today, but you're closer than you were yesterday. And when pain and anguish and disappointment tries to threaten you, then reach down deeper and uncover the greatness inside of you. And what is it called? Paul the Apostle called it winning the race of life. Paul is my Bible hero, this little man that was shipwrecked, maybe washed up on the beach, and someone would have gone up to him and said, "Hey, Paul, is that you? How do you feel about the love of Christ today, Paul?" And this little guy would stand up his whole 5 feet and stretch an extra eighth of an inch. He'd put his shoulders back and his chest out and bark out the words, "Unashamed." Then when he felt the sting of the lash, someone would have said to him, "Paul, how do you feel about the tough times today, Paul? How do you feel about the love of Christ today, Paul?" And Paul would stand up a little higher, stretch his body up to another eighth of an inch. He'd stick his chest out and his shoulders back and say, "Unashamed." Then when he was stoned and the flesh was literally falling off his back, someone would have said, "Paul, how do you feel about your missionary journeys today, Paul?" The giant of the Christian faith that stood 5 feet tall would stretch an extra eighth of an inch, put his shoulders back and his chest out and bark out the words, "Unashamed." Then when he was thrown in prison, what do we hear? Singing. Yes, Paul called it the success and the race of life. I call it victory against defeat. And in the process, you must take every exit and turn it into a new entrance. I've read over 6,000 biographies. I've studied history for over 50 years. And I'm interested in the changed masters of history. One person can make a difference. They're not 1 in a million, they're 1 in a billion. So is there a matrix that we can use? Education doesn't seem to have the answer. It seems that many of our teaching institutions and universities are simply degree factories that produce graduates as employment fodder. Albert Einstein was considered an underachiever and a dunce at school. And we look at the life of Carlos Sim, the richest man in the world, was buying shares at 12 years of age. Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg were both university dropouts, and the list goes on. So what sort of matrix can we use and take it with us when we leave today? Is it self-determinism? Or did William Shakespeare provide some insight when he wrote, "There is a divinity that guides us, rough hew it how you will"? Maybe you feel as though you're an actor playing in a drama called life and you're unable to recognize the script. Maybe you're waiting for a trumpet sound to grasp the confidence of certainty. Or could it be that you secretly believe that life has a special meaning with God guiding and protecting hand, but you just don't know how to respond to it? You confused? Let me tell you this. I've met many of the greats of the past and of this modern world. And I know this, that the changed masters of history had a fearless approach to their ultimate objective that was fixed on calculated progress, however small. And the changed masters of history considered defeat or failure as abhorrent to them. And they went forward with a faith that could easily be mistaken for arrogance. It seems as if they were flowing in a magnetic mental compass that guided them towards their dream. It also seemed that the chain masters of history had a lifetime of motivation, energy, and a sense of purpose and proportion. Incredible optimism, the capacity to create strategies, curiosity and courage, and a defensive of pain tolerance as a shield against discomfort. It also seemed that these chained masters of history could see the way clearly ahead and were in command of circumstances. Now, some philosophers described it as a manifestation of the will to live. The great Viktor Frankl called it a search for meaning, and others have just simply referred to it as an itch that they haven't been able to scratch. Alexander the Great called it his hope, Martin Luther King called it his dream. Steve Jobs of Apple Computer, it was a search for excellence to impact the world. But I'm talking with you this morning. What about you? How is all this about the past and about these greats directly relate to you? Well, as a Bible-believing Christian, we have to understand the distilled essence of some reasoning. We know the truth. We don't follow hype. We follow that which is practical and not a theory. That is a reality and not a fantasy. I want to share one or two things that may help you. There are simple 4 questions that you should ask yourself and then come to grips with a serious response. The first one is, what age have you set yourself to reach your full potential that God might maximize your life? Have you put an age on it? You don't know? Well, you better put an age on it. What age have you set yourself to reach your full potential that God might maximize your life? Secondly, could you write down in 50 pages or more what your full potential is in every area of your life? This is not a dress rehearsal. This is the main event. You're not coming back and having another shot. Number 3, accepting your full potential at 100%. What percentage rating would you give yourself right now? And fourthly, accepting the deficiency between the 2 scores. What plans are you going to make to take up the shortfall and when? In my own lifetime, I've met many great unexpected opportunities. And you'll find that the prize usually goes to the person who has high standards. And Robb mentioned that with character. And without a recognised steady character compass, you're very often going to become long on grief and short on satisfaction. Life is not a problem, it's a reality. And you might think that life is hard, but compared to what? So if you're always looking back at the past and fretting about the present, it's possible that you may lose the future. You are of enormous value to your family and those about you. This country needs you at a time now more than ever in history. And because your life is of value, you really can consider being a changed master of history. Wouldn't it be wonderful from this meeting we could have 12 people that set their minds to change America? Or you just want to be a passenger and hang around and enjoy the process. So don't just go through life, grow through life. And as you get older, you'll understand the value of most things are often measured by the amount of life you're prepared to exchange it for. And I hope you yearn for the impossible. You know, most times our life is half spent before we begin to understand all about it. I want to assure you that the inspiration to greatness never falls on the shoulders of a committee. You study the chain masters of history, it usually happens with one man or one woman. Because the spirit of the individual, of mankind, has no walls, no boundaries, no barriers, no limitations. We are Christian entrepreneurs. We're not tourists waiting around in an atmosphere of fatalism. We must be involved in the game. You must come to grips with what part you're going to play. Now there's some here that may build something and it's going to be great. Some of you are going to be fantastically successful and even overcome and benefit from these changing times we have before us. Then just as suddenly and surprisingly you may find yourself broke and ill-equipped to fight back. But you're going to have to work on every relationship, every promise you make, every product or service that you're involved in has the possibility of destroying you or in turn destabilizing your business unless you overcommit and underperform. If you make a promise that something will be done by Friday, have it done by Thursday, and better than expected. If you're on the edge with price or quality, you know the deal usually goes to one that already has a reputation for quality and completeness in time. These are tough times. You're there to work, not to watch. You're always in front, not vacillating behind. You've got to pick up the pieces and mend the fences. You're a problem solver, not a problem maker. You've got to be worthy of trust because your word is your bond. You've got to be credible because you are reliable. And when others slow down, I want you to speed up. When others retreat in fear, I want you to advance with courage. When others give up, you'll fight on. When nothing works, you'll find something that does. When many despair, you'll remain steadfast with hope. And if all hope is gone, you'll go out and get on your knees and get some more. You're here to stay. You're not going to run away. You're going to make this country great again. Because we are the Christian entrepreneurs. We're the dreamers, the dream makers, the dream doers, the dream catchers, and the dream achievers. We mustn't be stopped. We're not giving up. We can't slow down. We'll find something, we'll do something, we'll get something, we'll make something because we're different, because we're Christian entrepreneurs. We don't expect people to call us, we'll call them. We'll not expect until we inspect. And when these meetings are over, I want you to always be aware that the food that you eat, the electronics that everybody uses, the transport people drive, the clothes that you wear, the jobs that you create, many of these things would not even be around without the talent and resourcefulness of the entrepreneurs. So when you see the crowds passing you by, the children playing with their toys, the stores full of produce, the entertainment, and sometimes the tired, smiling, satisfied people going to and from work, and the charities that you receive the grateful donations without a thought as who risked to provide and delivered them in need. The people who pay the highest taxes to provide the benefits for us to enjoy. It's the unrecognized, mysterious entrepreneur who knows only too well that tomorrow may have to adapt to changing markets and different circumstances and products. So if you're in business, I want you to be a smiling entrepreneur. If you're not in business, get into business. How dare someone tell us what to do? We're sons and daughters of the King. And if your pastor's here, I want you to start preaching about people like Joseph of Arimathea. I want you to start preaching about people like the Good Samaritan. I want you to start preaching about people like Job, who was blameless before God, great entrepreneurs in the Bible, and encourage our people to go out and build the businesses and employ people. And I want you to sustain this thought. Only one idea, a challenge, the next fortune may come from this room. Entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of this country and the strong beacon of all commercial life. They search out beneficial change, they illuminate and grasp opportunity and dare to explore the edge of safe limits, and in doing so create new frontiers. They push on to remove the dim veil of ignorance, timidity, and all that is yet to be seen, experienced and discovered. And let remind all the pastors here and those that have jobs, without these entrepreneurs, the path of progress would be a stagnant residue of forgotten and discarded dreams. Entrepreneurs are the giants of the world, who sometimes unseen affect the lives of us all, and without them this country and my country and our inhabitants would continue to wallow at times and perish while they stand subdued at the doorway of opportunity and prosperity, bound by their own fears. These giants, they're in this audience this morning. They will lead the parade of progress in this 21st century and make the change. They will not be inhibited by things that bind ordinary people. And most times they are misunderstood, envied, and at times criticized by the very people that they provide benefit. We ought to examine the tenure of their spirit and, where applicable, learn from them. And in closing in this part of my address, I want to say this: may our courage catch up to our passion. And when conflict and cowardice try to threaten us, we will respond with calm and courage. And when poverty and idleness seek to overwhelm us, our quick refrain will be energy and wealth. And to all those who hear the march of our feet and the earnestness of our call, the watchword will be clear for all of us to hear, which is success, success, success. It's time for us to take back the economics and stop being employment fodder, suffocating in the amorphous glob of sameness. We are the Christian entrepreneurs. And if you're not an entrepreneur, start thinking about going into business. Yes, you may fail, but you'll find out there's one way you can't do it. I lost everything 3 times. I'll never forget the 3rd time. There was a man in the back. He called out to everyone. He said, yes, this young fellow owes us money, but we ought to throw him in because he's never told us a lie. And some of the awful, terrible pains and agonies that you have in failure can be resurrected when you become a success. You know, the Bible has a lot to say about leaders. In Isaiah it says, behold, I have given him for a witness to the people, a leader, a commander to the people. In Samuel it says, he that rules over men must be just, ruling in the fear of God. Now, if you seek to be a leader, then you may envy Napoleon. But Napoleon envied Caesar. Caesar envied Alexander the Great, and Alexander the Great envied Hercules, who never even existed. And as we turn the pages of modern and ancient history, we're always confronted with the many strange and powerful happenings of change, built or created by so-called leaders. Some of them were fools, some were geniuses, some were saints and psychopaths. Then by chance we stumble across some of those that were humble and did great things and blessed people. You know, leaders are people users. I've known some of them personally, world leaders. I've studied them. Some of them are proud, arrogant, self-opinionated, highly motivated with visions of grandeur. Some leaders only have transitional friendships, flexible loyalties, and secret, unwritten agendas as they gravitate towards success. Others are encouragers of hope, and they provide to us the sacred ingredient that all we desire and need. That is inspiration. When our leaders are gone, we forget their mistakes and they become our heroes. As individuals, they are able to focus on a dream with complete clarity. They have realistic understanding of their own capacity and how much of themselves they're prepared to give, and the courage to endure pain with an iron will. But the Christian church is absent of leaders. I want to hear a voice, but no voice comes in a world of flame. The Christian church has reduced to a pathetic whisper, where many people have voted or job into office because of long service or age, with no idea of whether they can lead. And the first law of leadership, you won't get this in seminaries, you won't hear it from leadership teachers, but the first law of leadership is you must invoke at least a little bit of fear. Read your Bible. God said to Joshua, you'll do this, 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 and this, and they will fear you. You must get your respect early. Leadership provides an authority, and slipshod, carefree, people-pleasing leaders are soon toppled by someone with a strong will. Leadership has to learn to be lonely. When you study history, you find that leaders are lonely. Why? Because they cannot mesh with other people. Moses was alone on the mountain. Joseph was alone with the lion. Jacob alone, wrestling with the angel. Noah alone. Samson alone. Nehemiah alone before the king. David alone before Goliath. Peter alone. Paul alone in prison. In more modern time, Martin Luther, Wycliffe, Calvin, Knox, Archimedes, Galileo, Newton, Einstein, Fleming and Edison. And I don't deny that human beings can often work well together, but it is obvious they do their greatest work alone, with an absence of other people. I was speaking to a group of men on leadership one time when someone put up their hand and said, I want to be a leader, but I don't want to be lonely. I want people to be happy to see me. I want people to enjoy my company. I said, buy a dog. We've got to come to grips with law number 3. Beware of power holders. All leaders are actual or potential power holders, but not all power holders are leaders. The interesting thing, I wrote a thesis many years ago on power holders. They identify themselves. They arrive late for the meeting, and everything is brought to a halt. And then you have to repeat everything to an audience of one. That's a power holding technique. In meetings, power holders, when you get to a crucial point in the meeting, they will say, you know, I have a feeling in my spirit about this. I tell them to go to the bathroom or wait for them. You have to know the difference between leaders and mere power holders. The fourth thing you need to learn in leadership is leadership law number 1. A leader must not get distracted, and Pastor Robb spoke about this, on issues away from the main event, or use time and energy out of proportion to the dominant cause, or surrender to criticism, lest the mantle fall and rest upon the vanquished. The great teacher St. Augustine said, a weakened sense of responsibility does not weaken the fact of responsibility. Character takes years to build and only minutes to destroy. And wishing you'd done right is easy in retrospect, and with some of the smallest scent of power prevails over other things. If they have a scent of power, money, popularity, it can destroy you very quickly. Be careful when you are tired, because you will make decisions that you shouldn't have made earlier. Leadership law number 5, do not expect your staff to follow or your companies to love or even like you. You're there not for affection, they're there to get the job done. Number 6, develop a response art of communication. You cannot communicate people if you're not going to listen to them. I was chairman of the board of directors of 24,000 people. Even though I was the chairman, I would walk, as Pastor Robb said, in and out the factories, up and down, asking people about their families. And you'll find that with that sort of communication, they will follow you anywhere. A very interesting illustration is done by Napoleon. Before he would go into battle, he would ask his officers to give him the names of at least a half a dozen men and identify how they looked, and he wanted to know the names of their children and any problems they had. In the dawn before the battle, he would walk up and down in between all of the men. He would select these 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 men because he could identify them, and he'd ask them about their wives and their children. He'd go through the whole battalion, and they'd say he knows each one of us intimately, and they'd go out and die for him. If you're going to talk to people, make it comprehensive. Tell it clear and complete. Make it directional. Put measurements and time frames. Ask them what they thought you meant, not what you said. And if you tell them something and their tone goes off at the end, they're not going to get it done. Listen for tones. You know, there's some cover-ups in business. If you've got a lot of people working for you and things go wrong, the first thing you do is follow the money trail. Someone is playing with the money. The second thing is, if something goes wrong, check there's not romance in the office. The third thing is power holding. They want to hang on to the keys and they won't give people information and pass it on. The fourth thing is envy. I want to be in the position that you've got, and if you don't give it to me, I won't tell you what I know. People are frightened to fail and frightened to let you know that they can't do the job. Every blockage, every obstacle, every refusal to, or an obstruction to perform or follow through a direction given by a leader need to be checked out. If you can talk with your people, if you can listen to the tones and understand who they are and what they're trying to achieve and have a mission statement. This was rather interesting many years ago with a Texan company. You know, Texans don't know everything. As a matter of fact, we have a farm in Australia that's bigger than the entire state of Texas. If I hear any more bragging from the Texans, we'll cut it in halves and have 2 farms bigger than the entire... Leadership must follow future events. You need to be able to understand what's going to take place in the future. I think it was Einstein that said imagination is more important than knowledge. And never put yourself before people when you're sick, tired or fearful, because if you do, they'll take advantage of that and get something off you that they shouldn't have got under normal circumstances. Sometimes you feel fearful. Acknowledge its presence. My wife has said to me, she said, Peter, you're a scary guy to live with. We've been married 60 years, but I've never seen you frightened of anything. But you see, no one can hurt you. I think of Mahatma Gandhi, this little man that stood before the greatest empire of the world, the British Empire. And he's folded his arms in front of a machine gun. He said, you may break my bones, but I will not cry out. You may throw me into jail, but I will sing. You may even kill me, but what have you got? You've got my body, but you have not got my obedience. So do not be intimidated by fear. There's nothing they can do to hurt you. If they cut your legs off, or my legs off, I'm still Peter Daniels. They cut my arms off, I'm Peter Daniels. If they kill me, I'm going to live forever. I tell the story from time to time about Winston Churchill. He is my secular hero. This man that mobilised the English language and sent it into battle. When he said, we will fight on the beaches, we'll fight on the landing grounds, we'll fight in the field, we'll fight in the air, we'll fight in the hills, we will never surrender. When he sent those young men up on those Spitfire planes during the Battle of Britain, if he hadn't done that, you'd all be speaking German or Japanese today. I wanted to find out what made the difference with this man. Did you know he had a brother and you've never heard anything about it? I've read every book that's ever been written about him. I've read every book that he's written, but I couldn't find out what made him great until one day I found a letter that he'd written to his mother when he was in his early 20s, fighting a war in India. And this is what the letter said. It said, Dear Mother, we were out on military exercise today and we were ambushed by the enemy. My comrades fled in terror, but rather than flee, I turned my pony around and rode it straight into the face of the enemy. I immediately took out my revolver and dispatched 2 of the enemy immediately. I spun my pony around and I dispatched 2 more. I was as cool then as I am now, writing this letter to you. Nary a bullet touched my pony, my tunic, or my person. I believe I was preserved for higher things. I have his own voice telling me of all of his exploits, as I do with General George Patton and a number of other people. But if you want to really make a mark in life, you've got to have a sense of destiny. We talk about a sense of destiny, but not many people understand how you can achieve it. I've studied it all my life. The first thing it does, if you have a sense of destiny, and I recall the words of Churchill that I have home when he's sharing his life with me. He said, I received a message from the king. I went to the palace. He received me most graciously. He talked to me quizzically. He said, Winston, I don't suppose you know why I've called you. He said, adopting his mood, I said, Your Majesty, I have no idea. He said, I want you to form a government. I want you to bring the British Empire to victory. He said, at that moment, the whole world landed on my shoulders. I was walking with destiny. Because as an 11-year-old boy, he said to his friend, sometime in the future, it will fall to me to save the empire. So the first thing, if you think you've got a sense of destiny, it's going to dare you. The second thing, it's going to drive you. And the third thing, it's going to demand you. Firstly, it dares you because it challenges your status quo and your inner desires and stimulates your wildest fantasies. If you have a sense of destiny, you're going to have to trade your life for it. It also stirs up your deepest fears, your moral reticence, and your mental stagnation. It creates inspirational dissatisfaction and dares you to be different. If you want a sense of destiny, you must trade your life for it. The second thing it does, it drives you. It drives you from safety to pain, from words to action, from indecision to determination. Then it expands your knowledges and develops your will and expands your vision. And the third thing it's going to do, it's going to demand your all. If you think you have a sense of destiny, you have to trade your life for it, because finally, when you do expire, whatever you've done in your lifetime, that's what you've traded your life for. And the cost of a big dream, a small dream, or no dream, it's going to cost you your life. And it becomes so compelling that it becomes more precious than life itself. I got the sense of destiny when I was 28 years of age, when God said he wanted me to change the world for 300 years. We're still on that path. I believe we can change America, because if America falls, God help Christendom. So I want you to understand that if you have a sense of destiny, you're going to consume every ounce of energy, every moment of time, every fleeting thought, and the great flame that commenced as a tiny spark will go into a fire. I don't have much more to say today. I tell you what I would like to do if, I'm in charge today. Can we have a microphone right here? Just a portable microphone. And one over there, and one there if possible. Has anyone got any questions they want to ask? You cannot upset me, you cannot make me cranky. Anyone got a question? Come straight to the microphone and ask a question if you've got one. This will be your last chance this side of glory. Just give your name and answer the question. I don't want your life story. Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. My name is Mark Nathan. Thank you for coming in. My question has to do with the balance between business and politics. Obviously, Christian entrepreneurs, the marketplace.
Don't go into politics. You have to toe the party line. You can do more out of politics than what you can in politics. I was invited to be running mate for the Prime Minister of Australia. I refused. Why? Because you've got to persuade people to vote you back into office, and by that you do an auction and you offer them all sorts of goodies. Sometimes you have to go the opposite way, and you're going to be thrown out of office. You can do more out of office. As a matter of fact, it got to the point back in 1971 where the government would come to me before they put any legislation through on morality. Why? Because I was able to build up such a large number of people that would vote against them if they voted bad politics. Make sure. So you make sure that you generate some power and some influence, and you can. The politicians, quite frankly, they talk so nice to you Christians and the pastors think, oh, goody, he's on our side. I hear what they say when they leave, and it's unprintable. So you'll do more out of politics than you'll do in politics.
Thank you, sir.
Chuck Colson was a good friend of mine. I said, Chuck, what about, they're talking about someone's handling world power. He said, look, we couldn't even get a sewer bill passed. He said, there's no world power out there. It's out of control. Someone else said, okay.
I have a question as we deal globally with different countries that don't have the having investments overseas. They don't have the laws around bribery.
What's your question?
So my question is, countries that
you're talking about
bribery is.
You're talking about Africa.
Yeah.
Of course you are. We've been sending missionaries in there for 200 years. We haven't changed the economics, the politics, the religion, or the ethics. We've got to stop doing what we're valiantly failing in. We do missionary work and pay for it ourselves, and we get it done because we deal direct with the pastors.
So don't deal with the business and politicians.
And they lie. Where are you from?
I'm from America, but I do business in West Africa.
Nigeria?
Nigeria.
Biggest crooks in the world. Well, they are, but they're some of the smartest people in the world too. And you turn a Nigerian into a Christian and you'll have a human dynamo on your hands.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Peter Case. I'm only 16, but what advice would you have for someone who's going into business at my age?
Okay, I have to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Remember, God is watching.
Yes, sir.
How many business biographies have you read over the last 12 months?
None.
Well, you're getting what you deserve. Okay, now read biographies written by business leaders, not people that are consultants. They're like castrated bulls. All they can do is advise. Yes, ma'am. Just give me your name and the question.
My name is
I can hardly
Reverend
hear
and
you.
Dr. Melissa E. Williams.
What's
And
your question?
My question is, would you please convey and elaborate on the one most important key that you believe would benefit me most as a protege and a leader? I do have a doctorate,
I've got
but
4 of them.
I'm also in ministry.
Don't worry about doctorates. I've got 4 of them. They give them to you to make you look good.
I don't really even want to. I don't even want to work under the doctorate.
You talking
wanna
about
work in
leadership? Are
ministry.
you talking about leadership or business?
Leadership in ministry.
Well, first of all, look behind and see if anyone's following. You see, there's a lot of rubbish talked about leadership in the church. We say that we teach leadership in the church. The church does not teach leadership, it teaches management. We've never had so many conferences on leadership in the Christian church as we have today, and we got people that have been trained in leadership and couldn't lead a group in silent prayer. I mean, where are they? Point them out to me. What are they leading? A little group at the church. I'm talking about real leadership where they can persuade the government to tell the truth. That is leadership. Okay? Thank you. Yes. You got another question?
I have a son who has dyslexia.
I beg your pardon?
And I would love for you to pray for him. If you
You'd
would you
like
take-
me to?
I have a son with dyslexia.
Yes.
He cannot read anything. He's 31 years old, and I just wanted to give you his name
Okay.
and ask you if you would pray for him. That's the
Okay,
second
no,
question.
I'll do more than that.
That's a request.
Excuse me, I'll do more than that. I have acute dyslexia, and you can do things, but it's going to take discipline. And he's got to be very well disciplined. He must discipline himself. I have such bad dyslexia. I can't understand why a group of men run around on grass with funny uniforms on and chase a bit of leather with wind in it. When they catch it, they're not allowed to keep it. I think it's called football or group. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
How much longer? We're right.
Mr. Daniels, my name is Paul Tutak, and I'd like to ask you, what is your best advice regarding time management?
Measure every day. If you get this program here, we've only got 5 left. Destiny of the Third Millennium, I show you how I measure every single day on a mathematical equation. You see, one of the greatest blessings I had, I didn't have a formal education. I failed at every grade at school. They just put me up to keep me at the same age as the others. But at 26, I was virtually illiterate. And so I think quite differently than what you do. I can read 3 or 4 books at a time. Put a mathematical equation on 4 areas. You'll get it out of this program. Don't spend money you can't afford, though. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Sherry. You had an email that mentioned a mentor direct
Oh, yes, and we've had thousands of calls on
and emails. Mine was one of them.
it. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? And
Well, when I get back home, I'm doing something quite different. We're going to look for 30 people in the world that I will personally mentor. Now, you need to understand the mentorship in regard to a biblical mentor between Elijah and Elisha. Elijah didn't have to do anything. Elisha had to chase Elijah. Now, I'm going to do it a little bit different than that. I'm going to make sure that each of these 30 people will have a personal phone number that they can contact me, and I will stay with them for a year and see if we can turn them around. So if you've sent us an email back on that, we would have put it aside, and over the next couple of months we're going to select 30 people worldwide.
thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Daniels, my name is Courtney Banks. I wanted to ask, during your journey as a Christian businessman, how did you kind of measure yourself between being ultra ambitious while not being covetous? So I think as entrepreneurs,
Just give your money away. Money cannot be your God while you're giving it away. Just keep giving it away. Just let me give you one illustration. Many years ago, there was an opportunity for evangelism, and it was a great opportunity. So I gave everything I had, every penny I owned, and pardon me, I need a plumber to stop this leak. And when I finished, I thought, I wonder how far I can push this. So I borrowed on all of my real estate and gave that away. And I thought, am I serious? So then I went to the bank and said, how much would you lend me on my reputation? They said, you have picked this patch clean. You have nothing left. I said, well, my reputation must be worth something. And so we worked out a deal, and I got some more money, gave that away, and I didn't tell my wife for 20 years. And I made it all back again, no problem. Okay, just keep giving it away. Yes, sir.
And my name is Tom, and my question is, what is your ideal picture of America? Like, what are you trying to create and change?
What I'm trying to change in America, and we're going to do something very positive on this, and I think it will change the whole country. We're going to get back the American spirit. Because when the spirit is strong, nothing can stand in its way. It's the American spirit that's different. We came here in 1977. It was a different America. Today, it's a sorry America. Everyone here can feel in their bones something is wrong. Something is wrong. Well, let me tell you that your creditors are knocking at the door, and you got to pay your bills. Your politicians I mean, your politicians are no better than ours. We say, how do you know if your politician is lying? His lips are moving. And they just up the debt level. No, start paying it down, which means that you're going to have to suffer for a while. Okay, this gentleman here.
Mr. Daniels, my name is Joey McMahon. What advice would you have for someone who wants to go into business but they don't know what they're passionate about?
Read 1,000 biographies by business people and build a vocabulary of overcoming incredible odds. See, that's why you read biographies. You overcome incredible odds because it builds a vocabulary. Okay? You must read biographies, and you've got to be prepared to risk. I mean, we're the greatest risk takers on earth. We believe a virgin birth. People laugh at that. I mean, Christians are the biggest risk takers on earth. And why they don't go into business is beyond me. I can't understand that. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Hi, my name's
You've
Justin.
got a piece of paper there. It looks like you've got a
write it
list.
down, yes.
Yeah, good.
Question I had when you had crunched the numbers to the $92 trillion debt that we have right now.
Yes.
Question I had is how much can the debt whittle down over time and how much time it would take if we were to bare bones Washington, we compartmentalize smaller departments into umbrella.
Stop. You know, you're talking like a politician now. The easiest way to change America is when a person becomes 65 and they can retire and get the pension. If they don't take the pension, give them 10% off their personal income tax. If they go the next year, give them another 10% till they reach 75 years of age and they pay no more personal income tax. That'll keep them working, then you won't have to pay for all their medical expenses, you won't have to put them in old folks' homes, and they'll spend money on the grandchildren, and all the money will go back in circulation. You'll save $500 billion a year just on that one. Okay, you got to stop thinking like a politician and think like a business person. Then they ought to choose 10 products that have never ever been exported from America and give a 10-year window, no corporate tax on it. Look, these business people would build factories, they'd build massive businesses, and what would happen, you get the balance of payments adjusted, and then people that are working for them have to pay income tax, so they'll still get a lot of tax out of it. They've got to start thinking like a business person, not like a politician. Okay? Maybe even create the United Americas. Go down to South America and throw $100 billion at them. It's only paper. I mean, you don't even own your own currency. Those of you that think I'm joking there, go to your iPad and read up on the creature from Jekyll Island and turn it into the United Americas, right from Chile right up to Alaska. Then you've got 1 billion people there, and just in case China gets a bit too big for themselves. Okay? Yes. This is the end. We stop. We'll deal with these ones that are here.
No more coming to the microphones. This will be the
No, these will be the last ones. Yes.
I had one more question. What would you think about college?
Why do I have to think about it? I mean, what are you getting at? You've got to ask a question that's a little more specific than that. What do I think about it?
Is it relevant to being an entrepreneur? Do you think it has any value to be actually becoming a business person?
I think to get the fundamentals is good, but my son Graham, he said he spent 2 of the best years of his life in the same grade at second year high reading motor magazines. But the professor of law in the university takes him out to lunch and asks him questions on international law. He's within the top 4 of the world in some areas, and he's all self-taught, and he studies ancient Hebrew just for relaxation. Okay, so it depends what your hunger is, and just search for truth. Now, you're going to need to go to college and to university for engineering and medicine and things like that, but entrepreneurship needs to be taught by entrepreneurs. that are successful. But what we do in marketplace ministry, we generally have people that are employees. They're not the right people to talk to them. An employee cannot speak like an entrepreneur. And so you need to listen to entrepreneurs that are running their own business successfully and hopefully, like us, totally debt-free. No debt. It's a good way to live. If you, gentlemen, give your wives some financial security, they'll look at you with stars in their eyes. And you've got to ask how much is enough money for a woman? Just a little bit more. Okay. Yes, sir.
Henry Green, Dr. Daniels at a previous...
I know who you are,
yes,
sir.
You mentioned how you had trained your mind to be able to write books without mistakes. Yeah. In final form, can you share with us the process of how you trained your mind to do that?
Brutally. I cried a lot. We were actually at a black church 72 hours ago, and someone questioned the fact that I could do that. And so we got them to come out the front, and I think my wife got it down to about 2 minutes, and I'd asked the subject they want to write about, and I put the heading on it, the subheading, and the heading of each chapter in 2.5 minutes. And I didn't know the subject as well as what I should have. But I think it's just the fact that I, in a sense, I've brutalized my mind. I'm still learning. I'm studying almost every day, and I have what my wife calls my desperation quotient. She says, you're one scary guy to live with. Okay, yes, over here.
My name is David Azenabo. I'm from Nigeria. I have 2 questions. The first one is, how do you bring a change to a nation? And the second question is, how do you bring a change to the lives of the young people?
Well, you got to do it. You're back to front. You got to get the change to the people first. But how do you get it to young people? By having older people that are responsible. See, the biggest ability you can have is responsibility. We didn't have a teenage problem with our kids. I came from a mess. I wasn't brought up. I was dragged up. We didn't have a problem with our kids. We didn't have a problem with our grandchildren. Now we've got a great-grandchild. I don't expect to have a problem with them. I wrote a book, and I don't know whether there's any books out there left, but if there is, I'll sign them for you. But it's called The Christian Code of Conduct. Do you have a code of conduct for your family? Because that's what we do, and all of our family have to abide by that code of conduct. And so we don't have any problems as they grow up because everyone's got the same code of conduct. Okay?
Thank you. I have 4 of your books. I'll bring them to you.
Good. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Mr. Daniels. I'm Christy Fisher from Canada. And my husband and I would like to ask you about what kind of church should we be attending as young Christian business leaders and owners?
Well, if you don't like the church you're going to, don't criticize the pastor, leave. That's the first thing you need to do. Secondly, you need to go to a church that you believe that they're preaching the gospel, and you should tithe. If you don't feel as though you can tithe, you should also leave, because quite frankly, it was before the law, and you want God to look after your money. But I go to a tiny church. We were in Baptist work for 40 years, but they were always down on everyone. This little church that I go to, I like the pastor. He's got a streak of integrity, a foot wide up his back. I don't agree with everything, but I keep my mouth shut and I live the life. So it's up to you to live the life. But if you can't support the church, leave and go to a church you can support.
Thank you.
Okay? This is the last one. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels, for coming here, and thank you for the 900 churches and the service you've done for our country. I heard you about 25 years ago, and I came from Southern California yesterday to hear you again. And my question to you is, you said you're going to pick 30 of the people. How are you going to pick those 30? Because I'd like to be one of them.
You don't think I'm going to tell you so that you can massage the application that you make and get everything right, get all the boxes ticked. no, we'll be looking in a particular way, but I mean, they'll need to be agile, mobile, and hostile, because I'm not going to waste my life on people. But I'm also doing something else. Every week I'll be doing an email to people on one subject. It'll be visual and audio. And one of I think the first subject that we're doing, who mentors the mentor. And what I did as a young man, I chased after older men, and my wife said to me, "Why do you chase after these grumpy, old, grubby men? You clean their cars, you clean up their backyard, you run messages for them. Peter, you're a grown adult and you're running after these old men." I said, "I'll find out what's on their brain." And so I had several mentors at different times. They didn't even know they were mentoring me. But it got to the point that when I left, they couldn't operate because I was doing so much for them. And they missed me and phoned me up and asked me to come back and so on. So if you want someone to encourage you and give you information, you've got to give them a service. It gets back to Luke 6:38, you give and it should be given unto you. Okay?
All right, thank you.
I'll just close with this. We have, I think, 5 of these left. Is there anyone here that's got one of these? Have a look at that, eh? Everything I've learnt in my lifetime is in there. You're locked into the World Centre of Entrepreneurial Studies for 5 years, which means if you ever have a business problem you cannot handle, you can contact us. I'll either handle it or put my research team on it and get back to you within 72 hours if it's not a weekend or holiday. Let me just say in closing, may God expand your life until your destiny is fulfilled. I'll stick around for a while and try and answer those secret questions and sign your books. But thank you for coming. It's been wonderful being with you. I'm sorry that I'm not fitter than what I should be, but there is a cure that I've found for Parkinson's disease, and it works, and I hope to be cured within the next 12 months. Thank you so much.